Well, hello, my good friends. I know this is a Friday, and the reason I post this on a Friday today is because I posted the other podcast on a Tuesday. So, I didn't want to have them, so back to back. Like, I want to give you a little time to take it in. So, posting on a Friday. And on today's episode, we have my wonderful guest. He's a good buddy. His name is Michael Madsen, and I forgot his Instagram handle. Once again, good job, me. Good job. So let's go with my phone's right there, so I can't really check. All right, I'm gonna Google it right now. Here we go. His Instagram handle is at Michael Madsen Jr., okay? Michael Madsen Jr. all together, right? He's got some stuff on his profile that if you want to check it out, he's got a 30-second podcast or something, 30secondpod.blogspot.com, and he's a traveler too, so his Instagram is filled with beautiful pictures of across the country and stuff like that. So So, follow him on Instagram, everybody. He's a wonderful guest. He's a funny guy. He's a fellow comedian. And please enjoy him and welcome Mike to the show. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. So, what's up, dude?
Hey.
Tell us. Well, this is my buddy Mike Madsen.
Hi.
He's a fellow comedian. Let's go. So, dude, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Just woke up a little later than expected today, so I barely made it here on time. But we're here.
You were like 2 minutes late. You're fine. You're usually when you're at the mic, you're like 30 minutes early or something like that. So you're good.
I
have credit with me at least.
I do have a bit of like anxiety about like shows and mics. I always show up early every time. Which is weird because I'm a late person.
Really?
99% of the time. Like when it comes to hanging out with people, when it comes to work, anything, I'm always late.
Really?
Mics, I'm always way too early.
Dude, that's so funny because like whenever I get to the mic like a half hour early usually, and you're already there every time. So I'm like, oh, dude, this is a guy I like. He's on time. He's always here. He's ready. And then you tell me because like. I was like, oh, Mike's usually on time, and then I'm looking out the window, and then you're like actually driving in. So I'm like, oh, this I like this fella. He is prompt. He uses everything well. So
military dad. That's where that came from. 15 minutes early is late.
Okay. Hey, do you know what, dude? I appreciate that. It's some people do not. So I'll take it. It works for me, dude. So speaking of military dad, where did you grow up?
I spent most of my life in Hawaii, but I moved around a lot. So I was born in Oregon, moved to Hawaii when I was 3, spent like my elementary school years there, and then bounced around from Texas to Belgium, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and then back to Hawaii, where I finished high school and college.
Okay.
And then moved to Oregon for a couple years, and now I'm in St. George, Utah, planning next steps.
Nice, dude. So I didn't know about the part where you actually were born in Oregon. So how many years were you spending in Oregon when you were born?
Only like 2.5, 3.
Okay.
So I moved before my first memory.
Okay. So yeah, no memory whatsoever. Yeah. Okay. And then you went to Hawaii. How long were you in Hawaii for?
First time 6 years, and then second time 7, 8 years.
Do you have great memories when like the first time you were there?
Yeah. I mean, it's always been somewhere I've considered home, which is for someone who moves around a lot, like kind of an important thing is where do you consider home? And the only place I really feel that connection is Hawaii. It's a shame. It's just, incredibly expensive.
Yeah. I've never been. I've always wanted to go, so I'll get there eventually, but
yeah, when you do, you have recommendations. I got you.
Okay, thanks, dude. I'll take you up on those. So, what was it like growing up in Hawaii? Like,
it's I know it's weird, but it's not unlike anywhere.
Mhm.
Like, you don't realize the differences until you leave. You
Mhm.
know, one of the big things obviously is diversity. I
Mhm.
mean, my high school, I think had 8% white people.
8? Oh
Eight.
wow, that's low.
It's mostly Asian and
Yeah.
Pacific Islander,
Yeah.
and so you get kind of a little bit more of a global
Yeah, broad
perspective,
perspective, yeah.
especially if you've lived in Hawaii and other places. You get an appreciation for a lot of different types of uh, groups and types of people. I mean, living in Europe for a couple years did something similar to me.
Mhm.
But it's definitely there's that element of just pure diversity, but also in Hawaii it's a very uh, it's a place where there's a lot of love there
Mhm.
for people, but you
Everybody.
have to earn it via respect.
Okay.
So if you're a respectful person, if you come in
Yeah.
embracing culture, which I think if you do that anywhere,
Yeah.
you find good people. And that's, I think, more true in Hawaii than anywhere else.
Okay. Did you get teased a lot for just like 8% white people? That
Mhm.
doesn't sound like a lot of white people.
It's not.
Did you get teased a lot for being the white dude in school?
A little bit. It was more playful teasing.
Yeah?
When people ask, like, did I experience racism in
Ah.
Hawaii? Usually, like, no. I mean, I had, do you swear on
Swear,
this? Cool.
dude, you can say whatever you want.
There are assholes everywhere.
Yeah.
The assholes that were in Hawaii happened to use race as an excuse to be an
Mm-hmm.
asshole, but it wasn't a race thing. They were
Yeah.
just dicks.
Dude, here's the thing, like human beings are assholes everywhere, right? So like you can look at it that way, and then which is my lens, right? Like
Mhm.
if you're dealing with humans, you're gonna find an asshole here and there.
Yeah.
It's the thing is like whether you look for them or not, and then if you're looking for them all the time, you're gonna find them, right? So if you're looking for good people all the time, you're gonna find good
Mhm.
people all the time. So it depends a lot on your perspective, right?
I've been very lucky to find a lot of good people in everywhere I've been.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. And the reason is because you have that lens where you're like looking for that, right?
I've never thought about it like that, but yeah, you're
Wait,
totally right.
I think that's the healthier way of looking at things. Because
Mhm.
if you're just looking at, oh, where's the asshole now? Then you're just gonna be a miserable fuck, right?
Yeah.
So
And I've been that miserable fucking couple of times. When I first get somewhere, I'm like, everyone here sucks and it's
Yeah.
different. But it takes just a little bit of time before I
Yeah.
open back up.
yeah, dude, I've been there too. So it's like we're not judging anybody, right? So it's not healthy.
Yeah.
So, how old were you when you left Hawaii?
The first time or the second time?
First time.
I was 8.
8. Okay, so you're pretty much still a young buck
Mm-hmm.
when you left. When you left, was there something that you really missed from Hawaii?
Oh God, so much. I think one of the interesting things is I missed having like a feeling of like being understood, and I think just growing up in Hawaii and then moving to Texas, which is
Mhm.
kind of an insular place. I moved
Yeah.
to Fort Hood, which is like big military community,
Mhm.
but other than that, no similarities with
Okay.
Hawaii. And so there were a lot of things that I didn't get, and I think that's just moving from anywhere to anywhere.
Yeah,
But
it's like a culture shock, right?
yeah, it was a culture shock. I feel like I didn't really click with people, but in terms of just things I missed, obviously weather and food are
Okay.
the big things.
All right. So, what I love Hawaiian food.
Mhm.
I don't have like that much of a experience. Like anytime I've eaten Hawaiian food, I've
Yeah.
loved it, but I don't know what.
I got you.
Uh,
So there are 2 types of food you can call Hawaiian food.
okay.
There is traditional Hawaiian food,
Mhm.
which is food that Hawaiians from all of history have traditionally cooked, and those are things like poi, if you've heard of that.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
love
big,
poi,
big
yeah.
famous one. You love poi?
Yeah, it's good.
You're in the minority. Most
Really?
people that come to Hawaii or would visit Hawaii It's almost a running joke that they
Really?
like it.
Okay, I had no idea about that. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. It's pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah, but a lot of like taro-based stuff.
Mhm.
A lot of fish, obviously, and then there's local Hawaiian food, which is what Hawaiian food has become, and that's because Hawaii, obviously, a like plantation state. A lot of people from different cultures moved in, and it created its own culture. It created its own dialects. Its like language is pidgin, which is just an amalgamation of Japanese, Hawaiian, Filipino, English, like all of these different languages, and the food is the same way. So local Hawaiian food now is a combination of all these people's cultures, and so it's the big focus is on this idea of a plate lunch, which if you've had Hawaiian food, that's probably what you've been eating.
Yeah.
It's typical rice, mac salad or tossed salad, and then whatever your main dish is.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I love both types of food. I'm definitely partial. There's no way to make me happier than with a plate lunch.
Okay. All right, man. So I had like you said something and it like popped into my head and I just lost it. So let's move on. But dude, so you moved to Texas after what part of Texas, like close to
Killeen, so near Fort Hood.
Fort Hood? Okay.
Yeah.
And where is Fort Hood close to?
That's a good question. I don't know the geography of Texas too much. I think it's 2 hours north of Austin, but
Okay.
if I'm wrong, complain
sorry.
about it. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Nice. So you spent 2 years there?
3 years.
3 years? Okay.
Mhm.
What was that like?
Honestly, kind of uneventful. Like, I don't have any particular interesting stories about my time in Texas. I was young enough. It was from like 8 to 11 that it wasn't like this formative time in my life. It felt kind of just like a transitional period. Yeah, just my sisters both went to college.
How many siblings do you have?
So I have 3 half siblings.
Okay.
And they're all significantly older than me. The youngest one is 8 years older than me.
Okay.
So both of them went to college in Texas, and I was 11
Yeah.
when I left. So
Okay. That's like, so I have 3 siblings, 2
Mhm.
sisters, 1 brother, and the closest one to me is my brother, and he's 5 years older than I am. So it's
Okay,
a little
so you're
similar. Yeah,
similar,
it's
yeah.
pretty similar, dude. So, and so no, really no like anything that like made you like have some sort of inkling to be like, I like this place.
not really, no. I loved Austin when I visited my sister who was
Yeah.
going to University of Texas. Loved Austin. I think it's a cool city. Went back. I was on a road trip recently. Went back to Austin. Still loved it.
Mhm.
But in terms of experiences from Killeen, I have virtually none. That's
Okay.
kind of a blank spot where I was just kind of focusing on, I don't know, just being a kid doing typical kid
Yeah,
stuff. Like
yeah.
there was nothing special really.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from Texas, where did you go?
Belgium in
Ooh,
Europe.
So
yeah,
how
right.
how was that? Like,
Incredible.
yeah.
So I went to an international school. So I had like my friends were from Poland, Greece, Spain, Kenya. Like I had friends from everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
And so it gave me such a global perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, we took a geography class in 7th
Mhm.
grade, which is very typical.
Mhm.
But like we had to know every country and capital in Europe, and it's just like that kind of perspective has influenced the way I feel about politics, the way I feel about just issues in the United States, because
Yeah.
I realize how insular the United States
Mhm.
is and how much we get caught up in our own drama
Mhm.
that we forget to think that we are just one part of the world.
Yeah.
It's easy to think when you're in the same place the whole time that this is the world,
Yeah.
but it's not.
So, how long did you stay in Belgium?
2 years.
2
My
years?
6th and 7th grade year.
Okay. So, that wasn't as much of a culture shock for you then.
Oh, it was a huge culture
Yeah?
shock. I had to learn how to speak French, which I
Did
don't
you know
really
any?
know.
Did you know any other language before that?
No, so
No?
I still don't know French that well. I knew it enough to get by.
Oh, I was
Um,
so you don't know Pigeon. This is the question I was gonna ask
oh,
you.
okay. I do know Pidgin.
Yeah?
So Pidgin is it's like a some people will call it a dialect. I think it was officially recognized as a language recently.
Okay.
It's very similar. You can understand it knowing English.
Okay.
But there's words and there's phrases and there's different sentence construction. But if that counts as a language, then I'm
Then you are bilingual.
essentially fluent. Yeah.
Okay. So
It sounds a little weird when I do it,
Yeah.
but it's definitely.
so dude, I'm really like fascinated by Hawaiian culture. So
Mhm.
do you know like the words like ohana and aloha are those Pigeon?
Those are Hawaiian.
Hawaiian,
So, in a similar way to Hawaiian food versus local food, there's the Hawaiian language and the local
Okay.
Pidgin language. Pidgin does draw a little bit from Hawaiian words,
Okay.
but yeah,
It's more of a melting pot than and Hawaiian is very much
Exactly.
like okay. All right, I feel you. So
and
okay.
that's why like people from Hawaii aren't Hawaiian. Like
Okay.
a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're Hawaiian," and it's like, no, that's
No.
a race of people.
Yeah.
Not that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So going back to Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't remember any of the French?
I remember a little bit. So I retook French as my language when I was in college, and I had 2 years of it growing up in Belgium, and then I had the 3 years of it in college, and I know enough that I can do good on French-related crossword clues, but that's really about it. I think I understand enough to get by, and if I went back to Belgium or France, I'd be able to get to a level where I could do like survival stuff, go to the grocery store, go to a restaurant, order out. Like I have that base, and I just need to build it back up.
How much different is Belgium French from French French?
A little bit different. I'm definitely not the expert, but I definitely know their distinct differences. I know, like the number 80 in French is 80, which means 420s,
Mm-hmm.
and then the number 80 in Belgian French is like
Like saying 80.
It's like saying 80.
Okay.
Octant? I don't know. Look it up.
Well, we'll forgive you.
Yeah.
All right. So when you were in Belgium, did you do like any traveling around Europe?
Yeah, so thankfully, I was really lucky to be able to travel to all across Europe. I mean, my mom briefly worked as like a tour guide. Like she would organize trips from Belgium and the military base there
Mhm.
to different places, and then my dad had enough off time that we could really explore everywhere, and I felt like I got a really good introductory course into
Okay.
Europe as a whole.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Any particular country that you remember fondly from when you were back that young?
I gotta say Italy. Italy is up there. Italy is
Yeah?
probably my favorite.
Yeah?
I spent time in Cinque Terre, which is a collection of 5 cities that are
Okay.
on the coast of
Mhm.
Italy, and it's beautiful. I had a shit ton of pesto, shit ton of gelato.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice, dude. Italian food to me
It's
is
incredible.
It's incredible, yeah. So, so you spent a couple of years in Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go next?
After that, I was in Pennsylvania for a year.
What was that like?
It was cool. It gave me a couple things. One being an introduction to being cold. I had
Mhm.
never really, I'd seen snow, but I hadn't experienced it until living in Pennsylvania, where we had like 5-foot drifts in the winter for the year that I was there. And the other thing it gave me was kind of an introduction into American history.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough that I was there my 8th grade year, and 8th grade is when they do American history in Pennsylvania. And so I was in basically the heart of American colonial history
Mm-hmm.
when I was learning about it.
Okay.
Which is
pretty cool, right?
pretty awesome.
Yeah, because like you get to see exactly what they're talking about. You get
Mhm.
to actually go.
We
and
did a
explore
trip to Washington D.C. We did a trip to the Pennsylvania, the Liberty Bell.
Mhm.
Like we did all those things. So it was really cool to be able to do that.
That's awesome, dude. So, good time there? Not a good time.
I was fine. I mean, I definitely had a group of friends. It was a weird group of friends, but I was a weird person.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
I mean, if you're doing stand up, you're already weird, right?
That's fair.
So
yeah, I wouldn't be doing this if I was normal.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of part of the territory, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you spend a year in Pennsylvania. Where did you go next?
Georgia.
Georgia?
Mhm.
What was that like?
Different.
Yeah.
So Georgia, I mean, Georgia is one of those places where they respect when you've grown up there. And that's true of a lot of places, but Georgia felt particularly anti-new people. And so, like, I feel like I got made fun of a lot in Georgia for things that were normal everywhere else. And to be fair, had it coming, I was a very weird kid by Georgia. I was the weirdest I ever was. I'm glad I moved to Hawaii back afterwards because I got back on the right track to not being, the worst type of person. But I was pretty bad in Georgia, so I forgive everyone there for being shitty.
So,
but
how old were you when you get to Georgia?
I was I did my freshman and sophomore year of high school there.
Okay. So by this time,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think traveling so much did for you?
I'll do a little bit of the positives, a little bit of the negatives.
Okay.
So on the negative side, it made me less, I don't know, like I thought everything was temporary. And so I didn't really place much into these idea of like long-term friendships or like setting myself up for success because I knew I was going to move and any progress I made wasn't important. And then the other thing, obviously, I struggled like because I didn't have that background, so I didn't have any cliques or anything like that. But on the positive side, it made it so that I was really, really quick to make friends. I was really quick to want to explore as much of an area as possible. And then I ended up being very, very, very adaptable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a similarity with you in terms of like, okay, these either I'm gonna leave or they're gonna leave, because so when I moved to LA, I was in this acting school, and the friends I would make, you'd get so close to them because like when you're doing acting, have you ever done any acting stuff?
I haven't. I've actually been really interested in doing it just as an avenue to make my stand-up better.
Yeah. So it will help you out. Yeah. So when I was doing that like I was doing that for a year, and most of the people going there, like you're doing some weird stuff that you wouldn't do with anybody else. So you're getting really close to people.
Right.
And then the courses I was doing, like the program was spread out like, so you do like a month, and in this month, you would like you do the weirdest things you can think of. It was like there's acting there obviously, but there's like a bunch of exercises of just getting close to people just to connect.
Right.
So the first course is that, and then people would just leave. Like 90% of the people aren't there to like stay in LA. They were just doing there and like learning to act, and then they would just go. So after a while, like that course and then the second course, it was mostly like that. Like it's just a short course and people would just leave. So it's like, man, okay, I mean, I get really close to these people. And the ones I really got really close to were the first group.
Right.
And then after that, I'm like, dude, I just got really close to these people. They just left. What am I doing? So I got to find something to have like some sort of normalcy here. And like being really close to these people is not one of them. So I feel like I have that similarity with you in that sense. So,
well, I think what's interesting is to kind of jump ahead here. I think when you have artistic hobbies or just any kind of hobbies, and you kind of struggled maybe connecting in the past, you really dive headfirst into them, and you find your best ways of connecting. I mean, I was talking to my friend Landon is the one who brought it up. I haven't seen him in a minute, but shout outs Landon. He's not watching.
Shout out Landon. You're not seeing this, but we'll get you.
But he said, I think the reason why you get so into things is because you didn't have these like traditions or staples growing up. You didn't have this group, this like, I don't have cultural heritage that I really connect with in any meaningful way. Like my family traditions aren't that deep. Both my mom and my dad are like black sheep of the family, so they kind of left. So I'm not that close to my extended family, and so I really dive headfirst into these passions, and stand-up obviously being the biggest one. And I feel like with stand-up, acting, improv, anything in the realm of
they're related. They're related, yeah.
You really find your people, and so it makes it so easy to latch onto people.
Yeah.
And even though you have those people that you got close with in that first acting group, I guarantee at least one of them you still know in some capacity, you know?
Yeah, no. So I don't really keep up with them a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah,
okay.
Dude, it was weird. We can get into that later. But so in Georgia, you're like, okay, I'm not really liking who I'm becoming here. So what about that was it that you didn't like?
So I just I wasn't very socially adept. I really struggled with wanting to be someone that like I couldn't be the person I wanted to be. And I don't really know why. I guess I just like figured I was this person, this weird person, and so I kind of just leaned into it. Because it was easier if I was going to be somewhere for a year or 2 years, it was easier to play a character than it was to develop myself.
Okay.
Because that's kind of a complicated thing to do. And when you know in 2 years, no one you're working on yourself with is going to be there, it feels pointless. So when I moved to Hawaii, or when I moved back to Hawaii, the person that kind of brought me out of that was the guy who's now my best friend, Carlos.
Okay.
And he really
no shout out to Carlos.
No, he knows. I'm shouting him out on everything. Like, he knows. He doesn't need a shout out from me. But he's like, he saw that I was kind of struggling in that regard and made fun of me the first time he saw me, he said that I looked like I'm going to say a lame. It was something else that's not okay to say anymore. But he called me lame for wearing my high white socks.
Okay.
I took them off and then never wore them again. And so it's like things like that where he sort of saw those things in me that I didn't really connect with. And he tried to bring out the real me. And slowly he transitioned from like this mentor figure to older brother figure to now a best friend.
Okay. All right. So Carlos hooked you up, huh?
Carlos hooked me up.
All right, man. So out of all the so we're back at Hawaii now. But before that, do you still keep in touch with the people that you met in all these places, or it's like a blur?
Not really. I occasionally will reach out to somebody from Georgia. One of my best friends, I haven't talked to him in a while, but someone who was my best friend until Hawaii is someone I knew from Belgium. So I knew him in Belgium, Pennsylvania, and Georgia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he moved around with you?
He was also military and happened to move in the same places.
Really?
Yeah, so it was really cool.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
So I stayed friends with him for a little while, but that's kind of fallen off. But yeah, I would say almost everyone I talk to is either from Hawaii or a stand-up comedian.
That's almost my thing. Like, either family, some friends from high school, some from college, and then just the people that are here, like where I live now.
Right.
And then I don't keep up with the comedians from LA that much. So like I'll see them like their posts on Facebook and
Right.
stuff like that, but and then I'll like a few of them. But like I didn't have that many comedian friends. Like I knew a lot of people, but
Mhm.
none of them were like buddies. You know, like I wasn't the most social comedian until here is when I became like, oh, well, because I'm running the mic, so I
Yeah, I
have
was
to.
surprised when you said that because you're a very social person.
Yeah, I'm very social, but for some reason I was just like I gotta go home. So
Mhm.
I finished the mic and I would leave, which is probably something you shouldn't do. Like you want to be friends with the comics, right?
Mhm.
Like I have a few like I got along with and I talked to. Like that's how I got my first shows, right?
Right.
Like these guys were like putting up shows and that's how they would like, hey dude, you're funny. I'll put you up in my show and stuff like that. But that's about it.
I mean, comedy it's tough when you realize like comedy is less about being funny and more about being a person people want to hang out with.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. I mean, you're an entertainer. You should be there to entertain, and
Yeah.
part of that is being a good hang.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know, if you're not a good person to be around with, probably not gonna. I mean, you might be really funny, but probably not gonna go far, right? So,
Yeah.
all right, so dude, so you're back in Hawaii. How
Mhm.
old are you by then?
16. However old you are, your junior year of high school.
Okay, and what's it like now when you're in Hawaii at 16? Like, do you feel like you're glad you're back, or
Instantly, I feel like I'm home.
Okay.
I have the like it's a lot of people that come to Hawaii get called like the initial like haole, meaning like foreigner.
You know what's funny? That's the word I thought of, but I don't know if I was gonna use the right word, so I just kept it to myself.
Yeah. So there's that, but then when I revealed like, oh no, I went to the same elementary school that you went to. I've grown up here almost my whole life. It eased that, and then once I would go out boogie boarding or bodyboarding with a group of people I knew from when I was going to the church there, and like I was in ROTC, so I had a bunch of local.
Oh,
friends
really?
there.
You were in
Yeah.
ROTC?
I know it doesn't seem like it, but I was.
But that makes sense now that you said it because of your dad. But what was that like? Did you enjoy it?
I had a lot of fun. It was a great way to have like a group of like people who had your back. So I started in Georgia and then I continued it in Hawaii. And there were some really weird things that made me realize like I don't have the patience to put up with anything military related. And there was some real weird characters that were both instructors and students. There were some bizarre ones.
A lot of interesting cats there.
A lot of interesting cats. I won't go into too much detail, but a lot of people took it way too seriously.
Okay.
Is I guess what I'm getting.
Yeah. I can see why, right? Like, probably they wanted to be in the military, right? So they're like taking it so seriously because they want.
And a lot of the instructors like took it more seriously than the real military because they actually had power for the first time.
Oh, okay.
And so they were in their minds they were kind of generals even though they were not. And so there were a couple people whose power went to their head. Shout out Bosun.
So the people that you're in ROTC with, are they the same age group as you? Yeah.
So I mean, the people you see every day are in the same age group, but it's everyone that's in your high school.
Okay.
So by the time I was a senior, I was head of the academic team and like an officer, and so I interacted a lot with the younger, like the freshmen and the sophomores that were coming up. So like I feel like that was my first instance where I kind of found something that I really love to do, which is A, talking to people, but B, tutoring people.
Okay.
And helping people figure out what they want to do and stuff.
How long does ROTC go for?
As long, the 4 years you're in high school, and also to clarify, JROTC, and to clarify more, Navy JROTC.
Okay, Navy. All right, so you're in the Navy. Okay. Were there any people that were in the army that like you had any sort of rivalry with?
I mean, other schools had different like branches. So we had like rivalries with different branches, but not really. There were the weird ones. I forget. I think they're the Marine ones that have like metal buckets on their head, and they just look dumb. They looked real dumb. I don't know what they were, but they were weird. But like I did drill team, so I was spinning rifles. It was just a really fun time, and it was a good way, like I said, to get people who had my back, which in high school, especially
It's hard
in Hawaii,
to get that, right?
is really important. You need to have people vouching for you. You need to have local people who understand that you're one of the good ones, you know? Because there are so many people who come to Hawaii that aren't, that have no respect for the culture, with no respect for anything.
Okay. That's interesting. So all right, so there's a lot. They're big on loyalty then.
I would say loyalty, yes, but respect more than that.
Okay. All right. So you did 4 years of JROTC. What's high school like for little Mikey?
High school starts off tough. Just figuring out where I belong, but
it's fair to say you weren't the popular kid.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I was very much the unpopular kid. But it was kind of cool when I was in Hawaii. I was tall and white, and that makes you stand out a lot.
Okay.
And so I did have recognition, which helps a little bit too.
Okay.
But yeah, like I think it was just once I got to Hawaii, I really started to feel like I was getting my stride, and it wasn't until mid-college that I started becoming like the person I am now.
Okay. All right. So you finished high school. What?
This is the most I don't think anyone else has this information, all of this.
Oh, yeah?
You and whoever watches this are the people who know the most about me. This is so much.
All right. Hey man, we're just digging in and getting to know you.
I love it.
So you're when you're in high school, what is there anything that stands out to you that you feel like you actually really enjoyed from like the high school aspect of it?
I mean, I was very academically focused, less so once I left high school, but I loved math. Math is one of my favorite things.
Okay, so you're a big mather, huh?
Love math. It made so much sense to me, and it was really fun. I enjoyed the puzzle-like aspect of it, and I was also just really good at schooling. So like standardized tests have always been really easy for me, and so I excelled in that aspect, and I struggled in the social aspect. And so Hawaii was so good. I went to the largest public school in Hawaii.
Okay.
Has kind of a bad reputation, but it's not as bad as people let on. But it was really helpful in developing that social aspect because I was outside of my comfort zone, you know? And so I developed something that I was struggling in. And I think that leads me to something that I always do now, which is I always put myself in the position that is going to make me better by confronting what I'm weakest at.
Okay.
Like in stand-up when I'm
that
I
explains
can't
a lot.
riff.
Now
I'll
you're gonna
only
riff
for 3 months, and it's like, well, now I'm gonna get better at it.
It explains a lot why you got so good so fast. Because like I remember when I was 3 years in stand up, I wasn't that great, but you're like legitimately good.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
So, do you feel like you use any aspects of your math in your joke writing?
That's really interesting. I've never thought about that, but yes.
Yeah.
So the reason I liked math, like I was saying earlier, is of the puzzle aspect. And when you're writing a joke, there is that. There's the aspect of like making the puzzle click. And so sometimes I'll sit down with like 2 sentences, and I'll sit there for an hour trying to figure out the best way to do these two sentences.
Yeah.
And like the set I did on Thursday, I sat down with some of the sentences that like were important to me, because it was kind of a loose, free-flowing set. But I sat down with the sentences that were important to me, and I tried them every way to make sure they clicked. Get the right words, get the right phrasing, get the right flow, because it really, it's like making a musical puzzle. Like there's rhythm to it. There's the right thing to say. And the closer you get to that right thing, the better it sounds. And I feel like I have a sense for that a little bit. Someone once told me that you, when you're doing stand-up and you're doing it well, the audience breathes in the rhythm that you tell jokes. So they breathe in during your setups, out during your punchlines. Yeah. And it becomes like this flow, and I feel like unlocking that as a puzzle feels like math to me.
Okay, that's pretty cool. 'Cause it makes sense, right? Because like you're commanding the room, so that makes a lot of sense. That if they're with you, then they're gonna be breathing at your same rhythm.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. So, you're done with high school. You had a good time in high school?
It was fun, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You made Carlos still your buddy today, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you made good friends in high school. You graduated, and you went to college in Hawaii as well, right?
I did. University of Hawaii at Manoa.
Okay. How long was that for?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
So, how old were you when you left high school?
17.
17.
Yeah.
So you're out of college when you're like 21-ish?
Yeah. I think I graduated when I was 21.
Okay. So what was the best 22?
Yeah.
Okay. What was your best experience in college?
Oh God. College related, I'm going to say
anything in those years.
Starting stand up.
Okay.
I started stand up my senior year of college. And I was doing it. So, I guess I'll
get into it, baby. Let's do it.
Oh, this is tough. Okay, so I started off college as an engineering major because I loved math so much. And then I realized I could not be an engineering major. I was in a dorm full of all engineers, and I'm still friends with a lot of them today. It was a great place to be put. But I didn't like programming, and I'm too lazy to be an engineer. That's just how I am.
We're in the same boat, dude. So, you didn't like it.
No.
But you changed your major, right?
Instantly.
Okay.
I was an engineer for maybe one semester. I think maybe two, but I think it was only one. And then I switched to being a math major.
Okay.
And I loved certain aspects of being a math major, but I didn't do very well in college because I struggled with like depression, laziness, ADHD, like a bunch of shit that was A, controllable, and B, not, you know? And so like I did really poorly. And I would meet math majors, and I didn't really like how focused they were on math, which sounds weird, but
no, I get you.
Yeah, I met so many people who math was the only thing they could do, and they couldn't even do
anything else.
Certain parts of math.
Oh wow. Okay.
Math is very artistic, and it's very fun, and it's not memorization really. And almost every math major I met that I was with was really big on memorization and like being able to remember a few formulas, and didn't really like the creative aspect of math, which was the part that I loved the most. And I also realized none of them could talk. None of them could talk to anyone. And I couldn't either. Yeah. So I fit in that regard, but I wanted to.
You wanted to learn how to talk. Okay. So you weren't going to get any of that there.
No.
So how long were you in math?
Technically, I think a year and a half. But I was phasing out towards the end, you know?
Okay.
And maybe a little bit more, actually. Maybe 2 full years. But I took a communicology class, which sounds like a fake major, but it's a UH specific major. I think there are some California schools that do it too, some University of California schools. But the first class is just a public speaking class. That's all it is. And I have, for my whole life up until this point, had awful social anxiety and stage fright. Like I would like stumble over words. My legs would shake uncontrollably. I wouldn't be able to focus. I had awful stage fright, and presentation fright, I guess, if that's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I took this class, and by the end of it, I started feeling comfortable. And I wasn't all the way comfortable, but I started to. And then I switched my entire major to communicology.
Okay.
So I ended up doing a lot of presentations, doing several public speaking courses, doing instructional communication, leadership communication, like a lot of different focuses on communication. And just through pure trial and error, I got good at public speaking to the point where by the end of my last public speaking class, I was doing a presentation to a lecture hall, which is like 300, 400 people.
That's a lot of people.
And you get nervous, but I wasn't as nervous as I was presenting in front of 5 people 3 years before, you know? And so I realized I could do it.
Okay.
And then once I found communicology, I was a way easier major. Not a very applicable major if you want a job, but pretty easy major.
I feel like you can find ways to use it, though.
Oh, it's incredibly useful. It's not good for instantly getting a job.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's not like engineering or education where you have a job lined up after.
Yeah.
It's a job, or it's a major where you learn the skills to be good at anything.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been struggling a little bit with that side of things. But I had like a free, I could take one extra class because I was like, oh, I'm going to be graduating. My GI Bill runs out. I was using my dad's GI Bill for most of my college expenses. And so I'm like, I might as well load on as many classes as I can take my last 2 semesters. So my last semester I took an improv class.
They had that at the actual college?
I had that at college.
Really?
The theater program was pretty decent at UH.
Okay.
They had an 1-credit improv class. And it fulfilled
an
oral requirement or something. And so I took that and found that I really liked doing presentations. And
yeah.
I still was like kind of lost with what I wanted to do. So I called Carlos. He's a recurring theme in me figuring out my life.
Yeah. He's the guy like pointing out, hey, maybe you should do this. And then, okay.
And so he said, what if you could do anything, what would you do? And I said, make people laugh. And he's like, then you should probably do that. And then I was like,
put the mic closer to you. There you go.
Gotcha. Sorry, I saw. And then after he told me like I should do that, I looked up open mics, went to an open mic, just to watch, then went to my second open mic to perform, and then Hannibal Buress was on before me.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Which a little intimidating.
Yeah.
It did probably badly, but well enough that I wanted to do it again. And after that, I was hooked. I did it once. My goal was to do it once a month. Like my New Year's resolution was to do it once a month.
Okay.
And I ended up doing it not at all in January. So I'm like, well, now I have to do it twice in February.
Okay.
But then I ended up doing it every week until I graduated college
Oh,
in
nice.
May. And then after that, I started going to every open mic that I could. And so I started stand-up really kind of in February, but I started taking it seriously after I graduated.
Okay.
And then I figured out I met my people there. Like, it was a thing that I wanted to do. It was one of the only, like, passions that I've stuck to for as long as I've stuck to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you say you're lazy, but you seem to be one of the most disciplined comedians I know. And I've met a lot of comedians, so I think you just didn't have anything that you wanted to do.
That's, yes. So I am not as disciplined of a comedian as I aspire to be. I don't write every day, you know. Like, I have definitely taken long breaks. If you asked anyone from Portland, they would say that I'm not at all the most industrious comedian, because I took a lot of breaks there. I felt a lot of burnout. It was hard being in that city.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love it, and so it's easy to be committed to something when you like it a lot.
Yeah. It's funny, dude, because I've been disciplined all my life, but I didn't enjoy what I was doing a lot. So it was hard to like maintain that, But when I started to do stand up like regularly, I'm like, oh, I think I found a groove. I like this. But it also took a while for me to get there, though, right? So I had a hard time, like, because like if you bomb, at least in the beginning, I enjoy bombing now because you do it so much.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care, But at the time, it was a big deal. I'm bombing. I'm like, ooh, I'm not enjoying this. And then, but I would go again, but I wasn't going every day. I was doing like 3 times a week or something like that.
Which is, I mean, for starting off, that's a respectable pace,
Yeah. But it's still like, there's some emotional things that you got to go through to like get past that. And I don't know if you had that same.
In terms of just like feeling better about bombing.
Yeah.
I mean, the second you realize that, like, in terms of getting better, bombing is more useful than killing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Every time I don't know about you, but every time I've bombed, I went immediately to work on something.
Yeah. No, bombing is so useful. I feel like that's when I talk to other comedians, kind of a universal theme is like how a comedian responds to a bomb tells you so much about them. Because like when someone's new, and I didn't realize this when I first started, but I was wondering why like a lot of comedians didn't connect with me, like, because I was like, we're doing the same thing, we should like be friends.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because so many people wash out in these first few years. I think like people say you're not really doing stand up until you've been doing it like 6 years, and I've been doing it 3, and I absolutely get what they're saying. I mean, the amount of people who wash out first year, insane; second year, insane; third year, insane. I think once you've made it past 5 years, you start to get serious about it. And so like I understood why they were kind of being standoffish.
Yeah.
Forget where I was going with that, but yeah, it's something. Oh, the how people react to a bomb.
Yeah.
One of the few ways you can tell like if a newer comedian has something that'll at least make them stick around for a little while is how they react to their first bomb. Because I think you said it. Maybe it was you, maybe it was someone else at the St. George mic, but someone was like, "Oh, when you've had your first like real bomb and you come back, that's when you're a comedian."
I think that was that guy Eddie.
Yeah, that was.
He's the one who said that, but I wholeheartedly agree though.
It's true.
Yeah, because when you bomb, so like I here's the thing, like I bombed for like the first 6 months. I think I might have gotten like 2 chuckles. But I bombed for 6 months straight, and I just kept coming back because I knew that's what I wanted to do. You know what I mean?
Kind of same.
Yeah. Okay. That's crazy. But see, like I look at you now, and I can't believe that because you're really funny.
Thanks. I really appreciate that.
And you're a really prolific writer too. So, but maybe that's why you are that way, right? Because like you stuck with it so hard, and you're always finding like the puzzle.
I was really bad when I first started, like really, like so bad that if I would have watched myself, I would have been like, that guy needs to quit. Like needs to quit. And I started at a very similar time to 2 other comedians, my friend Lance Leverman and my friend Shannon Canton, and we started all at the same time. So we kind of had a class together, and like a graduating class together is what I mean by that.
Yeah.
And so we would kind of push each other because we always wanted to be the best of the 3. And I was by far the worst of the 3 for a long time. And since then, it's really been alternating who's the best. But we really push each other and elevate each other. And
Are they from Hawaii?
they're from Hawaii.
Where
I mean,
they
not
in-
originally.
Yeah.
But that's
But
where I met them.
where you met them?
Mhm.
Where are they at now?
Lance is still in Hawaii, and Shannon is in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
Okay.
He was in Boston for a little while. Now he's in Philly.
Okay. Oh wow, Boston, really? Okay. Boston's a pretty strong comedy scene. I don't know about now, but a lot of like great comedians come from there.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, and Philly has a pretty healthy scene.
I mean, he's
too.
doing really well for himself. Shannon is like doing stuff at Helium in Philly. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right, man. So you had these two buddies that you were like constantly competing with them. Like it's like a healthy competition, right? Like you're like trying to outdo each other, but at the same time, it's like making each other better, right?
Right. And at this point, I'm like all in to this. I am focusing exclusively on this. I'm not like, it's the summer after I graduated. I'm not working. I'm literally just doing this. I'm listening to every podcast about how to get better at stand-up comedy. I'm listening to comedians deconstruct their jokes on a podcast called Good Ones.
Okay.
Like I'm listening to everything comedy related because I don't really have the background in comedy that a lot of people do. Like I didn't grow up with stand-up that much. Yeah. And so I'm like going back trying to listen to everything, hear everything.
So how did you know you wanted to make people laugh?
It's just always been the most important thing for me.
Yeah?
I mean, I remember when people were talking about their biggest fears. I was probably a freshman in college, and we were talking about our biggest fears. And I realized like my biggest fear, the thing I had nightmares about the most, is being in a group of people and saying a joke and having people like uncomfortable or not.
Oh wow,
that was my biggest fear.
Wow.
And I should have just done stand up right then.
Yeah.
But I think it was that fear that kind of held me back, and now I haven't had that since I've started doing comedy.
Yeah, because now it's like part of the gig, right?
Well, now I know that there's nothing to be scared of.
Yeah, what's gonna happen? Nothing. Yeah. That's pretty interesting, dude. So, how old were you when you realized that was your biggest fear?
I know I was drinking illegally, so I was 19 or 20, I think.
Okay. So you didn't like watch any stand-up or anything like that?
I watched a little bit. I grew up. My parents aren't really big like stand-up fans, so I grew up watching a little bit of like Ron White was a big one that I grew up with, and then whatever like really in terms of stand-up specials, that was kind of it.
Okay.
And then I remember watching John Mulaney's New in Town. My sister showed it to me, and I'm like, oh my god, comedy's great.
Yeah.
And then I expanded outward and found what I like and etc. But it wasn't until I was like 19, 20 that I really started listening to stand-up, which is kind of different from my experience with talking to other comics. Most of them have listened to it their whole life.
Yeah. So here's the thing with me, like the only connection I had to stand up was watching Seinfeld. So that's the like I might have like watched it like here and there like on some Tonight Show rerun or something like that, but like actually just watching it was Seinfeld. And then I really like dug into like stand up when I pretty much started doing stand up. But what made me want to do stand-up was, I think I've told this story ad nauseum, so forgive me. But when I was like 12, we were doing this. You familiar with Hamlet?
Yeah.
Okay, you know Hamlet's not a funny play, right?
And not supposed to be.
Yeah. So here's, we were doing Hamlet, right? And my teacher made me like I wanted to be Hamlet because I was like, oh, I'm number one, whatever.
Right.
And she made me Claudius. He's like Scar, right?
Oh, right. Okay.
So
sorry, it's been a minute.
No, it's all right. So she made me the bad guy, but he's still like the second lead of the play. And I kind of like I was mad about it, but looking back on it, it kind of gave me some liberties in my brain, and it made me just want to play around because I didn't give a fuck. I'm like, that's plainly what it was. Like, I don't care anymore. So I just played around. Now I was just myself. So by the time we did the play in front of the class, people were laughing at what I was doing, and I remember having this feeling in my gut, dude. I'm 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, didn't start there, but I always had that feeling to go back to. So when I first started doing stand-up, I was 26. So like there was some time.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I've heard that so much about like comics that have their first time killing being like the memory for them.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is I think mine comes from the opposite angle. I think it does come from that fear because I remember I was in Belgium, so I was in 6th or 7th grade, and I was on a trip, and I told a joke that made everybody laugh. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And then I like harped on it too much. And one of the counselors turns to me and he says, the joke is never funny the second time. And I remember the feeling I felt being the worst feeling in the whole world.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm never going to feel this way again.
Oh, man, that's crazy. So what's funny is, like, it was a completely unnecessary thing he could have avoided. Mm-hmm. And he was, like, telling you, hey, man, just don't repeat your jokes, essentially. But you took it as, I'm never going to do this.
I never want that feeling of somebody telling me that I'm over, like, being annoying or not being funny anymore.
Yeah.
I don't ever want that feeling. And, like, that propelled that fear, you know?
Okay. So that's the fear that held you back a little bit, you
I'm
feel?
literally just going to send the clip of this podcast to my therapist. Just be like, this is all the stuff you should have been asking me. Like, they should be said after this.
Oh, man. So that's interesting, man. So you've been doing stand-up for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
How many festivals have you done? I've done one.
2.
I'm not done one.
I've done the Plano Comedy Festival, and the reason I heard about it was a Dallas comedian came to Hawaii, and I friended him on Facebook, as you do, and he posted about it, and I was like, sure. I was in was I in Oregon at the time? I just moved to Oregon, and I flew to Plano, saw my sister who lives in Dallas, and performed at the festival, met a bunch of really cool people. It was a blast. And then the second one was the Aloha Comedy Festival in the end of February 2020. So right
at the cusp.
The pandemic.
Oh, dude, that
it
sucks.
Was the last stand-up I really did was in Hawaii.
So you had that experience, and you're like, oh, man, this is awesome. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Oh, dude, that sucks. Oh.
Had a wild festival. I can't get into the full story. I'll talk to you about it after.
Yeah, we can talk about it later.
My ex-girlfriend bombed the most important show.
Oh, really?
It was a heckler.
Oh, she was a heckler? Ooh.
At the most important show for the festival for me.
They kicked her out?
Eventually, not before I did my set.
Ooh.
I did well.
Okay. Okay, I was just like, oh, man, did that ruin it for you?
No, I did better than I probably would have done without her, honestly.
Okay. All right. So she heckled you.
It was the host went on first. She heckled him. He was supposed to do like 5. I think he did like a minute and a half. He comes off and he's like, I'm so sorry. But it brings me up.
Oh, wow. So that made you like have to like.
I had to step up.
Okay.
And I did.
That's pretty cool, dude.
Lost the tape of that when my phone died, but God, that would have been an incredible
Dude,
tape.
I don't have my best sets recorded. That's speaking of. So I applied to one festival when I was in LA. It was the Burbank Festival.
Okay.
And I had a set that was all right, but like I didn't get any response back, so I didn't get in. And I'm like, dude, if I just had that other set, that would have been a lot better. But anyway, so, and then I've applied to one recently. The problem is I used the same set that I didn't get in.
That would be an issue.
Yeah, right. So maybe it's an issue of like someone, the idiot posting the set is not realizing, hey man, if it didn't work in there, it's not gonna work over here. But anyway, so dude, having to deal with, how many minutes did you have to do at that festival?
For that show,
Yeah.
I did. I think it was 8.
8, and you had to cover for the host too?
It might have been 10.
Okay.
I don't remember how much time I did because I was just in survival mode. Until I
Yeah,
got the
you're
light,
just blanked.
Huh?
Did you blank?
I didn't blank at all.
No, I mean like blank in terms of like you don't remember what happened, or do you remember everything?
Oh, I remember what happened. I normally am very good on like my internal clock when I'm doing stand up.
Mhm.
Like I know how long my bits are. I know how long I've been on stage. If
Yeah.
you never gave me the light, I'd probably get off within a minute of when you told me I had that much time.
Yeah.
But I just I had to go with it. I had to do a lot of riffing. I had to do my material and then use her as like a extra punchline and tag on jokes and
Yeah.
stuff. So it was really fun.
That's pretty cool, dude. So anything that you want to promote, like
Follow me on Instagram, Michael Madsen JR. That's subject to change. I'm looking for a good username. Also, if you have a good username for me, maybe something like has a good pun in it, maybe something like the Michael Madsen comedy. I don't know, something.
are you a
Instagram
junior?
message. I am a junior,
Okay.
but I never say it on stage, and so I feel like I should get rid of. I never tell people I'm a junior, so I feel like I should get rid of it out of my Instagram handle.
I mean, I don't know, dude. I like it. It's like Michael Madsen Jr. Like, okay, you're like a junior, and there's another Michael Madsen.
There is.
So that's one of the things I'm like, dude, why does this name sound so familiar? Michael Madsen, Michael Madsen, Michael Madsen, and then you're like, the guy from
Reservoir Dogs.
all those movies, the Tarantino movies. I'm, God damn it, how did I not think of that?
My goal truly is to become. I have 2 goals in
Michael
stand-up.
Madsen?
It's to become the second most famous Michael Madsen,
Mm-hmm.
and to do a skit on someone's rap album. Those are the only 2 things I want to. If I do those and never make it in stand-up, I will have made it.
To
me.
you made it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool, dude. Anything else you want to promote?
No, that's it. Thanks for having me on,
Of course.
man.
Thanks
I
for
appreciate
coming,
it.
dude. Michael Madsen, everybody, give him a follow. Talk to you later. Bye.
Well, hello there, my good friend. How are you? I hope you're doing swell on this fine day. You know, there was one time where I enjoyed someone's video, and I didn't know how to get the next one. So I thought to myself, oh, what if I subscribe to their video? What a novel thought. If you enjoyed this video, would you please like it? Subscribe to the channel. That way, anytime a new video comes up, you'll get the next notification. You know when it comes up. It will be swell. And if you enjoyed it a lot, share it with your friends. That's all I'm saying. Only if you enjoyed it a lot. If you didn't enjoy it that much, just keep it to yourself, you know? Just keep it to yourself. All right. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Oh my. Hi, I didn't see you there, but since I got you here, let me ask you a couple questions. Would you like to support this podcast? If that's a yes, then I have another question for you. Do you like stand-up comedy? Have you been thinking about it for a while? Why haven't you done it? Is it because of fear? Are you doubting yourself? Is that what it is? What if I told you that we can turn those fears into action and we can get some results, right? So, look, if you want to have fun, if you want to do stand-up comedy, if you just want to challenge yourself, if you're a business person, it's great to know how to speak in public because you have to do it constantly. And by doing stand-up comedy, you'll be doing it all the time, especially because it's a lot harder to make people laugh than it is to just talk in public. So, if you like doing that, and if you want to have fun, how about you go to the link that's below. It's right here. linktr.ee/khalu2. Linktree/Khalu2. And if you go to that link, click on the stand-up comedy course for beginners, and you can buy that course over there, and we'll all have a grand old time. You have fun learning how to do stand-up. I have fun being with you. It's all fun and games over here. So what do you say? You want to join me? I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.